So welcome to the channel, guys. My dear technician, today I'll teach you how to read the values of all the capacitors to know if a capacitor is good or bad. Yeah, so today, guys, I will be using a multimeter. Yeah, if you do not know how to use a multimeter, I will teach later about using a multimeter, but for now let's go straight to capacitors. So guys, this is a multimeter. As you can see, it is off here and it has a voltage and other things. Yeah, you can see it's a lot. I'll teach you about all that, but for now the multimeter is always off. So if you want to know the values of a capacitors, you need to take it to here. I don't know if you can see it. This one here. Yeah, this one is called ohms range, or you may call it booster mode or diode mode. This one here, it's like a Wi-Fi thing, and yeah, let's go there very fast. Here, you see here, hope you can see it. And if there will be a beep here, make sure there is a beep here. You see there must be a beep. If it is on booster mode, there must be a beep. So my dear technician, let's go straight to the point, to the capacitors. So today, first, before you continue, first what you need to know about using a multimeter, you must make sure this the black probe and the red probe in the right manner here, so that you can get the right readings here. Yeah. So the red probe goes to the ground of the PCB here. You see, like this one here. This is ground. This is ground. This is ground. Yeah. And let me show you. Yeah, see this yellow thingy. This yellow. Yeah, it's all ground. All the G and Z of the PCB. So guys, what you need to know, first of all, let's start with the capacitors. First, guys, what you need to know about capacitors, most of it is that most capacitors will beep on one side and the other side will give you a reading. Let me show you. As we have said, the red probe goes to the ground, and the black probe is the one that will be used to measure all the capacitors. So this is a capacitor, as you can see. You see, it is beeping on one side, but the other side is not beeping. You see? Okay, what you need to know, guys, in some PCBs, not all capacitors will beep. You see? Not all capacitors will beep. This is because they are not connected in series. Because they're not connected in series, and they have no connection, you see, with the ground of the PCB. You'll get it. Like, if it doesn't beep, you see, like this capacitor. Let me show you a capacitor maybe that will not beep. Let's look for one so that you can understand. If you see a capacitor is not beeping on one side, just know that capacitor is not connected in series. Thus, it cannot beep since it's not connected to the ground. Yeah, I hope you'll get it. I don't know. Let me check. Let me check one of the capacitors here, so that I can show you how this is the ground, and this is a capacitor here. Now that one is connected to the ground. Let me see that it's not connected to the ground. most of it is connected to the ground, but let us see, we have time. Yeah, but what you need to know first is that not all capacitors will beep. Yeah, so guys, let's go straight to know how to read these values of every capacitor, to be able to know if a capacitor is okay, yeah, is good or bad, if you need to change it, or yeah. So okay, before you continue, first what you need to know about capacitors is that it depends on the position of the capacitor on the mobile PCB. You see, this the capacitors, you see the capacitors on the network section, or the capacitors on the power section, they cannot be the same. They do not have the same reading. So capacitors on the power section, power IC, as you can see, you see these chips are different. Yeah, you can see there is the power IC where the power section takes place, there is the network section. So all the capacitors around the power IC, which they deal with high amount of voltage than that in the processing section. You see the capacitors around here and here, they're different. They cannot get the same values. Please remember that. Yeah, capacitors around power IC, they experience high amount of voltage, you see, but the ones in the power section, the ones in the power section, they need a higher resistance. Of course, if they have a higher amount of voltage, they will need higher amount of resistance. You see, okay. If you measure the capacitors around the power IC, let me show you. This is the ground. It's a black probe. So let me show you. As you can see, the value here. As you can see the value there, it should not be less than 200 ohms. Yeah, if in the power section, the capacitor should not be less than 200 ohms, as you can see. Yeah, you see, 275. Let me show you. You see, let me show you. See, let me show you. I cannot see clearly. You see, but the value should not be so high, but it should not be less than 200 ohms. So if you test a capacitor and it beeps on the power section or network section here, or network section like this one, or the network section, know that the capacitor is shorting. Yeah, you see, when it beeps here or here, the capacitors around it, just know that the capacitor is shorting. Okay, I will make videos on how to identify these sections that I'm talking about, so that it can be easy for you. Yeah, so okay, there is CPU capacitors. Yeah guys, there's so many capacitors. Okay guys, this is the CPU, this one. So the CPU, the capacitors around the CPU, yeah, they have low resistance. Let me show you. See this capacitor, you see the capacitors that are around here, they have low resistance because of the low resistors that are integrated in the CPU between the parallel connection. You'll get it. So okay, let me show you. There is big capacitors in the network section too. Let me show you. big capacitors on the network section. Let me show you. Let me show you. You see, like these two, these are big capacitors. You see those two, these ones, they are two big capacitors. Okay, they should not have a reading of less than 200 ohms. Let us see here. Yeah, they should not be less than, they should not have a value less than 200 ohms. Let me show you. Where was it? Let me show you. Oh, here. You see, this is the red probe should be on the ground, and this one should be reading the value. Let me show you. It should not be less than 200 ohms. Guys, you can see like this capacitor, this is not beeping on any of the sides, so it's not connected to the ground. Yeah, that is what I was trying to show you. It's not connected in series. Yeah, as you can see, these big capacitors, they should not read less than 200 ohms. I hope you understand. So guys, so you need to know about all the capacitors in every section, that they are different, please. So guys, power section capacitors should not beep, and CPU capacitors here, this one, CPU capacitors should not beep and should not have a value less than 200. Yeah, and the big ones, let me show you that there are some more bigger capacitors. They should not be less than 300 ohms. There is the charging section. Yeah, they get a higher reading. Yeah, so you need to, okay guys, I will teach you on all these sections, since it's not easy to identify them and without knowing, but I will show you how to identify all these areas so that it will be easy for you to know all the capacitors and to read all the capacitors. Thank you. Let's meet on the other class. Please, if you get this video helpful, subscribe and make sure to wait for the next video, so that you might learn a lot about phones, about the mobile PCBs, and how to repair your own mobile PCB at home or any other place. Thank you.